Have you ever been disappointed by someone you trusted or felt let down by the behavior of those around you? We all have. But what if I told you that these disappointments are not just inevitable? They are essential for understanding life as it truly is. Welcome, seekers of wisdom, to a deep dive into some of the harshest truths about people that Stoicism compels us to accept. In today's video, we'll uncover these tough realities and explore how embracing them can lead to greater peace, resilience, and clarity in your interactions with others. Why do people often fail to meet our expectations? What are the Stoic principles that can help us navigate these disappointments? How can accepting these harsh truths about people transform our relationships and our inner peace? And most importantly, what can Marcus Aurelius and other Stoic philosophers teach us about maintaining our composure in a world full of imperfect humans? In a world where we constantly interact with others, whether in our personal lives, at work, or online, it's easy to become frustrated by the shortcomings of those around us. But Stoicism, with its emphasis on accepting the world as it is, offers a powerful framework for dealing with these frustrations. Today, we'll explore the difficult yet liberating truths about human nature that the Stoics urge us to accept. By the end of this video, you'll have a deeper understanding of how to manage your expectations, maintain your peace of mind, and navigate your relationships with greater wisdom. One of the most fundamental truths that Stoicism teaches us is that people are often driven by their own self-interest. This might sound harsh, but it's a reality that Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher-emperor, understood deeply. In his meditations, he frequently reminded himself that everyone has their own agenda, their own motivations, and their own needs, which often take precedence over others. This isn't to say that people are inherently selfish or malicious, but rather that self-preservation and personal interests are natural human tendencies. When you understand that most people are primarily focused on their own well-being, it becomes easier to manage your expectations of them. You start to realize that when someone lets you down, it's not necessarily a reflection of their character, but a reflection of their priorities. Marcus Aurelius would likely advise you to temper your expectations of others. By accepting that people will act in ways that serve their own interests, you can avoid unnecessary disappointment and frustration. Instead of expecting others to always act in your best interest, understand that they are often motivated by their own needs and desires. This perspective doesn't mean you should become cynical or distrustful, but rather that you should approach your relationships with a balanced understanding of human nature. By accepting this truth, you can cultivate a sense of detachment that allows you to interact with others without becoming overly dependent on their actions or approval. Another harsh truth that Stoicism encourages us to accept is that people are inherently flawed and inconsistent. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often wrote about the fallibility of human beings. He understood that everyone, no matter how virtuous they strive to be, will inevitably make mistakes, act irrationally, or fail to live up to their own standards. This inconsistency can be particularly frustrating in close relationships, where we might expect a certain level of reliability and consistency from others. However, the Stoics remind us that expecting perfection from anyone, including ourselves, is unrealistic. People are complex and often driven by emotions, habits, and external pressures that lead to contradictory behaviors. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, frequently reflected on the need to accept others as they are, with all their flaws and contradictions. He understood that getting angry or upset over someone's inconsistencies only disturbs your own peace of mind. Instead, he advocated for compassion and understanding, recognizing that we are all struggling with our own internal battles. By accepting that people are flawed and inconsistent, you can approach your relationships with greater patience and empathy. When someone behaves in a way that disappoints you, instead of reacting with anger or frustration, you can remind yourself that this is simply part of the human condition. This acceptance allows you to maintain your inner peace and avoid unnecessary emotional turmoil. The Stoics believe that much of the harm people cause is not out of malice, but out of ignorance. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, taught that people often act wrongly because they do not truly understand what they are doing. They are driven by false beliefs, misconceptions, or a lack of wisdom. This harsh truth is crucial for understanding why people sometimes act in ways that are hurtful or destructive. When someone wrongs you, it's easy to take it personally and assume they are intentionally trying to cause harm. But Epictetus would remind you that most people are simply acting based on their limited understanding of the world. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it does offer a way to respond with compassion rather than resentment. By recognizing that people often act out of ignorance, you can choose to forgive more easily and avoid taking things too personally. This perspective allows you to maintain your emotional equilibrium and respond to others with patience and understanding. Epictetus might also encourage you to educate and enlighten others rather than judge them harshly. If someone is acting out of ignorance, the Stoic response would be to help them see the truth, if possible, or to simply accept that they are not yet capable of understanding. This approach not only preserves your peace of mind, but also aligns with the Stoic commitment to virtue and wisdom. Another difficult truth that Stoicism asks us to accept is that people are often unreliable. Even the most well-intentioned individuals can fail to follow through on their commitments, make promises they can't keep, or simply change their minds. Marcus Aurelius understood this reality and often reminded himself to rely on his own inner resources rather than depending too heavily on others. This doesn't mean you should never trust anyone, but it does mean that you should be prepared for the possibility that people will not always meet your expectations. By accepting the inherent unreliability of others, you can avoid feeling betrayed or disappointed when things don't go as planned. The Stoics believed in being self-sufficient, cultivating the inner strength and resilience needed to withstand life's inevitable disappointments. Marcus Aurelius would likely advise you to place your trust in your own ability to navigate challenges rather than depending on others to always be there for you. This doesn't mean isolating yourself or refusing to form relationships, but rather approaching them with a realistic understanding of human nature. By accepting that people are unreliable, you can build stronger, more resilient relationships based on mutual respect and understanding, rather than unrealistic expectations. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is the importance of reason and rationality in guiding our actions. However, the Stoics also recognize that most people are driven more by their emotions than by reason. Marcus Aurelius frequently observed this in his reflections, noting how often people act impulsively, driven by fear, anger, desire, or other strong emotions. This truth can be challenging to accept, especially if you value logic and reason in your own life. But understanding that others are often motivated by emotion rather than rational thought can help you navigate your interactions with greater wisdom. Instead of expecting others to always act logically, you can prepare yourself for the reality that emotions often drive behavior. Marcus Aurelius would likely encourage you to practice empathy in these situations. By recognizing that emotions can cloud judgment, you can approach others with greater compassion and patience. When someone acts irrationally or emotionally, instead of reacting with frustration or confusion, you can remind yourself that this is simply part of being human. This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean understanding its roots. By accepting that people are often driven by emotion rather than reason, you can maintain your own emotional stability and respond to others in a way that is both compassionate and wise. The Stoics believe that while we have control over our own thoughts and actions, we are all subject to external influences, whether it's societal pressure, cultural norms, or the opinions of others. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on how easily people are swayed by the world around them, sometimes at the expense of their own values and principles. This truth is important to accept because it helps you understand why people sometimes act in ways that seem contradictory or inconsistent with their character. External influences can be powerful, and even the most self-aware individuals can be affected by them. Marcus Aurelius would likely remind you that this is not a flaw unique to certain people, but a universal aspect of human nature. By accepting that people are subject to external influences, you can approach your relationships with greater understanding and patience. When someone acts out of character or seems to be influenced by others, instead of judging them harshly, you can recognize that they are navigating the same complex world as you. This acceptance also helps you to remain true to your own values, even when others around you are not. The Stoics would advise you to focus on what you can control, your own thoughts, actions, and responses, while understanding that others are often influenced by forces beyond their control. Change is one of the few constants in life, but it's also something that many people fear. The Stoics, however, taught that change is a natural and necessary part of life, and that resisting it only leads to suffering. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of accepting change and adapting to it with grace. Understanding that people often fear change can help you navigate your relationships with greater empathy. When someone resists change or clings to the familiar, it's not necessarily because they are stubborn or irrational. It's because change can be deeply unsettling. This fear can lead people to act defensively, resist new ideas, or hold on to old patterns, even when they are no longer serving them. Marcus Aurelius would likely encourage you to approach such situations with patience and understanding. Instead of pushing others to change, the Stoic approach would be to lead by example, showing through your own actions that change is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. By accepting that people often fear change, you can avoid unnecessary conflict and frustration. You can also cultivate a sense of compassion for those who are struggling with change, understanding that their resistance is often rooted in fear rather than malice. This perspective allows you to support others in their journey, while maintaining your own sense of peace and stability. Another harsh truth that the Stoics encourage us to accept is that people are often unaware of their own faults. This can be one of the most frustrating aspects of human nature, as it can lead to repeated mistakes, misunderstandings, and conflicts. However, Marcus Aurelius understood that this lack of self-awareness is a common human trait, and one that requires patience and understanding. The Stoics believed in the importance of self-reflection and the continuous pursuit of self-improvement. However, they also recognize that not everyone is on the same journey of self-awareness. Some people may be completely blind to their own flaws, or they may be unwilling to acknowledge them. Marcus Aurelius would likely advise you to approach these situations with humility and compassion. Instead of becoming frustrated or angry with someone who is unaware of their faults, the Stoic approach would be to gently guide them, if possible, or to simply accept that they are not yet ready to see themselves clearly. This acceptance allows you to maintain your own peace of mind, even when dealing with difficult people. It also helps you to avoid the trap of becoming judgmental or self-righteous. By recognizing that self-awareness is a lifelong journey, you can cultivate a sense of empathy for others, even when they fall short of your expectations. Finally, one of the most challenging but essential truths that Stoicism teaches us is that people will often disappoint us. But that's okay. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that disappointment is a natural part of life, and that it's something we must learn to accept with grace and equanimity. Disappointment often stems from our expectations that others will act in a certain way, fulfill certain promises, or live up to certain standards. But the Stoics understood that these expectations are often unrealistic. People are complex, fallible, and driven by their own needs and desires. As a result, they will sometimes fail to meet our expectations. The key, according to Marcus Aurelius, is to adjust your expectations and accept the imperfections of others. By doing so, you can avoid the emotional turmoil that comes from constant disappointment. Instead of seeing disappointment as a personal affront, you can view it as an opportunity to practice patience, understanding, and acceptance. This doesn't mean lowering your standards or tolerating harmful behavior, but it does mean approaching your relationships with a sense of realism and compassion. By accepting that people will disappoint you from time to time, you can maintain your inner peace and navigate life's challenges with a Stoic mindset. As we've explored today, Stoicism offers profound insights into some of the harshest truths about people. Truths that, once accepted, can lead to greater peace, resilience, and wisdom in your life. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus understood that people are driven by self-interest, are often flawed, inconsistent, and subject to ignorance and external influences. But rather than becoming disillusioned or cynical, the Stoic approach is to accept these truths with grace and to focus on what we can control, our own actions, thoughts, and responses. So here's your challenge. Reflect on these harsh truths and consider how they might apply to your own life. How can accepting these realities help you navigate your relationships with greater wisdom and equanimity? How can you adjust your expectations of others in a way that preserves your peace of mind? Remember, the Stoics teach us that true peace comes not from changing others, but from changing our own perspectives. By embracing these truths, you can cultivate a deeper sense of understanding and compassion for those around you, while maintaining your own inner stability. If you're looking for more wisdom, guidance, or just a community of like-minded individuals, you know where to find us. The Stoic community is always here, ready to support you on your journey. Stay strong, stay stoic, and embrace the truths that lead to true freedom and peace.